Welcome to For the Record Open Mic. I'm AJ Nealey from Nealey Tire and Auto. I'm going to share my thoughts on what is the biggest constraint to growth for you. Before we get going, here are important messages from our partners.
ShopBoss is software built by shop owners for shop owners. ShopBoss offers real solutions backed by real experience. Simply put, it's shop management software that works your way. When customers are in the lobby and cars are on the lift, you don't have time for a learning curve. Now that's where ShopBoss comes in with profit-boosting features that work the way you need them to right out of the box. From built-in DVI to robust customizable reporting, ShopBoss makes everything about running a shop work more smoothly. Plus, with their Boss Pay payments feature powered by 360 Payments, you can enter the era of totally paperless payments. From text to pay, remote payments, and consumer financing options to compliant surcharging, and now even offering PayPal and Venmo options, everything is built right into ShopBoss. Plus, everything is backed by a fantastic support team with one goal in mind: your success. Be the boss with ShopBoss.
Great. Well, I'm very blessed to be here on the show. I get a chance to kind of rant and speak my mind. And so I really want to just kind of get to the point as far as the topic we're going to speak about today, or I'm going to speak about today. And that's identifying, what is the biggest constraint to your business and for your ability to grow. I'm only speaking from experience here because, as a company, and just a little bit of an origin story, the 30-second version. Look, technician turned owner. I started a one-bay garage behind my house in 2011. Of course, along the way, you wear all the hats, right? I opened my first legitimate location here in Edgewater, Maryland, 9-bay operation. I put everything on the line and went all in to make this work. Just had a drive, a passion for this industry, and there was no option. It was all in or nothing at all. So, and now we're here, fast forward to 2024, we're at 5 locations in the central Maryland area. And I can definitely tell you what not to do as far as a growth plan. And so anyway, we've been at 5 locations for almost 2 years now. And I really want to talk about my experience. And this is going to happen in any business. It's trying to understand, like, what are those constraints that are preventing you from growing? We all, in any business, you're going to run into some ceilings. And also, too, I just want to preface by saying that anything you hear is nothing new. I'm more or less just regurgitating from a lot of mentors and people that have inspired me on this journey as well. So I just want to know, I don't want to take credit for anything I'm saying here. I'll do my best to credit those that have kind of given me the info along the way to where I am today. But again, every business will go through those. And Alex Ramosi is a guy I listen to as far as a podcast is concerned. And one of the things he says is you got to figure out how to beat the bad guy to get to the next level, right? There's no cheat code for it. You just got to go in. You got to find a way to beat that thing that's going to get you to the next level. And such as business, right? You're going to run into a constraint. You're going to run into an issue that once you figure out how to beat that, it will really allow you to grow and get to the next level. So, for example, a lot of people might be a single store owner and they're looking to understand, what do I got to do to get to beat the bad guy to get to a second store, right? And there's, of course, a lot of things you can look at. Maybe it's making sure you've got a really sound process that's going to allow you to be able to scale, right? It's looking at systems and integrations and things like that's going to really allow you to scale. But really, I'm just going to give you the answer up front, right? The biggest constraint is you. It's the person in the mirror. It's the 2 thumbs staring, pointing right back at me. So first, you have to identify that you have a problem, right? It's like any 12-step program. The first step is admitting that you have a problem. So yes, I admit I have a problem, right? I understand it's me. What do I need to fundamentally do to beat the bad guy to get to the next level? And so I'm just going to kind of speak to our experience. We got to 5 locations, lots of challenges along the way, a lot of things I shouldn't have done, did do that I should have done earlier, things that I kind of neglected focus on, and certain things of that sort. I look at this as an understanding of, for us to get to the next level, it's really identifying that one true constraint. Is it the right person in the right seat? Is it a marketing issue? Is it a process implementation? Is it a sales training thing? And so those are just kind of some of the things that I'm just I'm currently internalizing and trying to add clarity and then identify that one major constraint that if I beat that bad guy, wow, that's going to really elevate us to the next level. And everyone needs to, as an owner, needs to be thinking along those lines, because as your role to continue to grow, you need to be focusing on the business tasks as opposed to in the business. If you haven't read any business books, like the first one I ever read was The E Myth by Michael Gerber. And so that was like a game changer for me. I just realized too, when I was in a one bay garage behind my house and you're wearing every hat in the business, I realized I didn't own a business, I owned a job. So I realized and I learned about that mindset, when he talked about the McDonald's, example that, you can get anyone to flip hamburgers, right? And so trying to create a machine where you just put the pieces in place and it's a living, breathing organism that is able to be a business and serve your community. So to do that, you've got to grow. And as you grow, you're going to have and build a team around you to get to that point. So anyone that's been there, done that, understands that you may be wearing all the hats. Then at some point you're going to have to hire a technician. I've been there. No one could do it like as well as I can, right? This was always my mindset. But you also you have to learn how to let go, put those right people, those right technicians in the right seats, implement a training program to make sure that they're performing the process the way that you've intended it to be built. And then look, you're going to be on the front counter, you're going to be that service advisor, that lead service manager, and then you got to hire a service advisor, right, to take you out of that role. And now all of a sudden you're overseeing the entire operation at that one location. As you grow, you need to continuously build a team of great people to get you to the next level. It's such as true as you get to multiple locations. You may have a great team at every store, but now you're going to have to start thinking about the fact, how do I build a middle management layer that is going to allow us to say go from 5 locations to 20 locations or 100 locations or whatever that might look like. And so the mindset has to shift to looking at, wow, what are those constraints going to be as far as building a great team that's going to get us there, right? And of course, you always want to make sure that you're doing your best to develop the people within to get you to the next level, and always having those development pieces and processes in place to hopefully one day promote one of your own people into the role that you're currently in, right? And so that's really my mindset, is what do I have to do to train my current team to ultimately replace me, right? Which is, I'm more or less currently a general manager of all 5 of these locations, but I want to understand what that role looks like, develop and create what the expectations are, create the scorecard for that role, and then be able to tap potentially an individual inside our organization to assume this role. And then they know, then I have an idea too about how to hold them accountable. So look, there's a lot of constraints. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's you. But it also too, it could be a process thing, right? It could be, wow, you know what? We're not really doing a good job at hiring. Okay, well, you got to figure that out, because a lot of times that's kind of the business that we're in. We're in the hiring, training, recruitment, retention industry, right? We just happen to work on cars, right? But we got to figure out, that's a bad guy that we got to beat, and figure out how do we conquer that problem. If just imagine for a second that if you never had to worry about finding good help because you had it, or you had a system in place that always made sure that you were stacking that bench of great talent to come into your organization, what would that look like? What would that look like to your bottom line? And so identifying that constraint that way, with that mindset, knowing that if I fix this one problem, what would that ROI look like? If I had the capacity for, say, 5 technicians at a shop, and I had 5 technicians on staff and not 3, right? Where maybe I'm currently at, if I actually filled the capacity with those technicians, what does my bottom line look like? If it's such a drastic difference there, that needs to be your point of focus, right? And maybe let's say you don't have a retention or recruiting issue. Let's say you're fully staffed, you got a fully stacked bench, maybe got a low car count, right? What are those things that you need to be doing in your sales process to make sure that you're retaining the existing customers that you have? Maybe you're identifying something along the customer journey that's creating a lot of people to not come back. Maybe there's a lack of a CRM campaign. Maybe we're not doing a good job in marketing. So you need to properly identify, again, what that big constraint is, and that's going to really allow you to attack it and grow, right? And maybe you are at max capacity, maybe you have had to shut off the marketing, maybe there's no room to continue to grow. Look, if you can't grow organically on the footprint that you have and adding additional bays, maybe it's a chance to think about extending hours. Maybe it's a chance to think about, well, maybe we do need another physical location, right? Okay, so maybe that's your current constraint. And what do we have to do to build your process in a box to be able to replicate that at the next location. So maybe that's your constraint. Like I said, at the end of the day, it is you in the mirror. It's trying to, and you should just be able to put your hand up and say, you know what, that constraint is me. What am I going to focus on to make sure we move the ball forward? I think what also happens with a lot of owners is again, back to that in the business versus on the business mentality. We need to be making sure as owners that our day to day task list must include items that are going to grow the company, right? We need to I'm guilty as charged on this. And I quite honestly believe that this is one of the major reasons why I felt like we've hit a ceiling as a company is because I look back on my days sometimes and I realize that I'm just executing tasks that are just in the business, right? Catching up on emails, dealing with unemployment claims, dealing with a chargeback, dealing with employee issues or this, that, and those are things that might be in the business, right? But it's preventing me from working on the things like building a process that's going to improve our close ratio from, say, one a certain percentage to another percentage, or trying to increase the number of inbound phone calls on something, or what it's preventing me from working on the things that will actually move the business growing in the right direction. So one is identifying that I'm spending more time in tasks in the day to day, and I need to be spending more time on the business that's going to move the ball forward. Andy Frisella, another guy I listen to with the podcast, and just be forewarned, his podcast can be kind of vulgar, but hey, he speaks a lot of truth. But he has something called a power list, which is very, very powerful, and it's writing those 5 things that must get done today that would allow you to look back at your day and say, hey, you know what, I won today, right? And what are those 5 things need to be? Whether it's a conversation you need to have, or a process you need to improve, or a system you need to implement, or whatever that is, like you need to look at those tasks that are going to allow you to grow the company in the right direction. So once you've identified the constraint, and let's say it is a process issue, right? You need to make the time, and we're always going to need to also make time for the business tasks. Like those will never go away. Like you're always going to have to answer the emails. You're always going to have to, check your calendar and things like that. I'm actually kind of working with my wife to kind of delegate my calendar, my emails, and things like that. That way, it will create the ability for me to spend more time on the business. That's why I'm in this seat, right? That's the ROI to this company is I need to be spending my time focused on the business growing and getting us to the next level. So I've identified that is one of my constraints. But once you've identified it, you've got to create the time to spend time on it. And a lot of this stuff, I'm not going to lie, probably just stinks to do. Look, I don't enjoy creating processes. To me, it's some of the boringest stuff you can think of, but my goodness, it's super critical to hone those skills and hone that craft, because again, that's the bad guy you got to beat to get yourself to the next level. If you're at one store and you want to open a second store, you have got to have documented processes. No ifs, ands, or buts. There is no way. If it lives up here, that is not an asset, right? Because if you have to always be looking at your business in such a way that if I'm gone, if I die, if I don't pass the bus test, as they say, if I get run over by a bus tomorrow, what happens? Where does that process exist? Where are those ideas? Who's going to assume that role? And so, it's the stuff that sucks, but it has to get done. Developing those processes that are, again, in the EOS language, just KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. It's got to be easy to follow. Just identify the main action tasks along the way, and just at least document them somewhere, because it's not, this is one of the things I've kind of learned too when it comes to processes. It's not the thing that you just always just serve in front of a new hire, like, okay, read this and do it. You need to look at your process as a supplemental tool for when that person's having that onboarding process and coaching that new hire, or doing a weekly coaching session on phone calls. It's not always pointing to the playbook, but using the playbook and your processes as a tool to help coach, to help hold people accountable, whatever it might look like. So just keep that in mind too, that it should be used as a tool and not necessarily the thing you just serve and put in front. Like you wouldn't just print the process and put it in front of them. Like they're not going to learn from that. You are a coach. You need to make sure that you have that coaching mentality and coaching mindset, that whatever you're doing to develop and grow your team, that the side by side one-on-one interaction is the most effective way to make change in behavior, right? And so having them believe in a greater vision for your company, using the processes as a supplemental tool to get them bought in and on the same page to create that consistent experience that's going to, again, just grow you tremendously. There's a lot here, right? Because again, the constraint is us, right? The constraint is the owner at the end of the day. We have to continuously personally develop as we grow. I am a big proponent of on personal development, personal excellence. You know, we talk a lot of stuff about the business setting, but who are you as a person? What's the last book you read? What kind of friends do you hang out with? What does your bank account look like? What kind of shape are you in? The personal development at its core is a reflection of yourself. And quite honestly, to me, like my North Star is the Lord Jesus Christ. Like that, I'm here to glorify him. I was put on this earth and he has a plan for me. And I just get the ability to serve because he served us, right? Yeah, we have a business here, but I look at it as a ministry. I get the ability to use the teachings of him and be able to use that to develop our people to serve not only our, of course, our customers, but our employees, right? If we serve our employees, they are going to be able to in turn serve our customers. So, but who are you as a person, right? What, again, back to those questions, what books have you read? Who do you hang out with? What does your bank account look like? What, are you a good steward with funds, right? Like all of these things are back to that personal development, personal excellence. And we all have a plan. God has a plan for all of us. And are we executing on that? Are we able to look in the mirror and say, yeah, I won today? Are we able to look back and say, I can look in the rearview mirror and say, wow, I can live a life with no regrets that I've done. I left it all in the field, right? That's something that might be a tough question or a tough pill to swallow and a tough question to answer for a lot of people, right? But it is ultimately, again, our business's constraint is the person in the mirror. It's us. And so we've got to first identify that. What are we doing to set an example for our people, right? And so that, again, that's tough. And maybe we've hit a ceiling, and maybe you realize, you know what, I don't have the skills or the meta skills. You know what, I don't want to beat that bad guy. I'm perfectly fine at level 3, and that's okay, right? But don't get discouraged if you know what the constraint is and you're not going to do anything about it. There's no one to blame but yourself. So that might be just tough love, right? Kind of hitting you in the face with that. But it's so true. And I look at that every day. I realize, like, wow, I could have done this better. I squandered this opportunity. But again, it's a life of no regrets. It's just opportunities for growth, right? We also have to embrace the suck. These are the things that, there is no shortcut for success. I may have talked about that earlier, but it doesn't matter how many books you've read or the mentors you have or the peer industry groups that you're in. On the journey and on that path to success, you are going to fail. You are going to make mistakes. There's no way to insulate yourself from it. Anyone that tells you otherwise is lying or they haven't done it themselves. That's just it. That's if no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The path will be difficult, but rejoice, my brothers and sisters, right? Because we should be thankful for those tough times, those trials and tribulations, because that's what creates and develops our character. That's how we become just better people. So these are the things that we need not forget, right? Is that we are all on a path, and we are our biggest constraint in our business, but also couldn't be in life, right? And so I just want to kind of just make that point known that there's a calling for all of us. There's a plan for all of us, and we shall not squander it, right? Time is our greatest commodity. Let's not waste it, right? We've been presented with an incredible opportunity to serve our customers, our community, our employees. We're meant to develop them and grow them. We should look at this as a privilege, right? Not to be in that camp. You consider yourself a one percenter, and not everyone are blessed to be in these positions, right? Just take that home. Just go into this with gratitude, knowing what we have in front of us, what we have built, and what we get to continue to build and grow and serve. Yeah, with all that being said, I'm going to bring this to a close. And again, the constraint is us. And what are we going to do to identify? What are we going to do to grow? What are we going to do to make a change for the better that's going to serve not only just us, but also our employees and our community? Thanks for watching. This has been AJ Nealey from Nealey Tire and Auto. Thanks for listening to my opinion.